I want to welcome you to the 39th show of Healthy Living with Marilyn. And my co-host this week, I am so glad that Aubrey's here. Aubrey Eicher is my co-host. She's filling in for Josie. And
I apologize, I was fashionably late.
That's okay. You're fine. You're here. It doesn't matter. And we're doing something different tonight, Aubrey, aren't we?
Yes, I'm excited.
We are zooming in from Vancouver, British Columbia. Yes. A wonderful man who just emanates leadership. Mm-hmm. His name is Dov Baron, and he is from Vancouver. So it's 5 o'clock there.
5 o'clock somewhere.
5 o'clock somewhere. And I mean, I have been so excited about this. We've been talking about this for weeks. And I want to thank you, Dov, for being my guest tonight and spending time with us. Yeah. It is so wonderful. Thank you so much.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's a pleasure and an honor. I'm happy to serve you and your audience.
Oh, you are awesome. You are absolutely awesome. I want to read his bio because it's just a short bio, but he has done so much. He has been speaking internationally for over 30 years. And he's the man with the finger on the pulse of the evolving world of the next gen leadership, which I want to talk about. Twice cited as one of Inc. magazine's top 100 leadership speakers to hire. He is a master storyteller, and I'm telling you, I have heard him on Facebook, and the stories he tells are phenomenal, and they make so much sense. I feel so much smarter after I listen to one of his Facebook Lives, awesome. Seriously. And he has the honor of presenting for the World Business Conference in Tehran. He was in Tehran a couple months ago, weren't you?
It was actually this time last year.
Yeah. Oh, it was this time last year? Because I was sitting in my living room traveling vicariously with you. So, I mean, it was wonderful. And as well as speaking for the State Department and the United Nations on leadership. He is considered by many as the leading authority on authentic leadership and the founder of Full Monty Leadership and the Authentic Speaker Academy for Leadership. Outside of speaking and training, Dov works with multidisciplinary leaders and executive teams to build the bonds that create organizational cultures that, become fiercely loyal. Hence his book, Fiercely Loyal. Mm-hmm. He is a best-selling author of several books. His latest book is Fiercely Loyal, which I have read 4 times. 4 times. I've read it so many times, it's starting to fall apart, Dog.
I do see that. It is falling apart.
It's falling apart.
That's a good sign.
Yeah, it is a good sign. And he talks about how high-performing companies develop and retain top talent. He is the host of the national U.S. TV show Pursuing Deep Greatness with Dov Baron on Roku TV and the host of the #1 podcast for Fortune 500 listeners globally. Dov Baron's Leadership and Loyalty Show on iTunes. He also writes and has been featured in many industry magazines, including being featured on CNN, CBS Small Business, Pulse, SHRM, Yahoo Finance, Boston Globe, Business in Vancouver, USA Today, CEO, and Entrepreneur, amongst a plethora of others. Thank you so much, Dov, for being with us tonight. This is such an honor for me. I mean, I've been looking forward to this for quite some time.
Very kind. Thank you.
So, I talked to Michelle, who's your wonderful virtual assistant, and there's a couple questions that I wanted to delve into.
Sure.
One that I wanted, when I was reading your book again today, now I don't do the Evelyn Wood speed reading, but I was reading through it and touching things that were interesting me. What is a CRO, and how can they help in a business?
It's a great question. Often we get titles like CEO, CFO, CMO, CIO, and all these C something, which means, chief, right? And most people are chief meddlers. But what's needed, in fact, in any organization, whether you are the CEO or whether you are the janitor, is to take on the title, not to wait for it to be given, but to become the CRO, the Chief Relationship Officer. All business is relationship based. You're sitting next to Aubrey. She's your trainer. That's right?
Yep.
Well, is she a trainer, or do you have a relationship with her by which she facilitates being your trainer? So everything is relationship based. And this is what we forget, that business is actually relationship based. And the better we become at relationships and we take on the responsibility to building relationships in our business, with our teams, with the people that we serve, with our customers, the stronger the business gets, the more loyal the people become, and the better we can serve.
Doesn't that also have to do with the friends that you have? Not so much of a CRO, but the relationships you have with friends to keep them loyal with you as well?
The fact of the matter is, I mean, there's an example, I know you've heard me say this before, there's an example that I like to give, and that is this. Right now, as you're watching this, as you're listening, as you're paying attention, in your mind, what I would like for you to do is to picture on one side of you a friend. And what I mean by a friend, I mean a dear, loyal, fierce friend, somebody who would be there through you for thick and thin, that you've known for, let's say, 2 to 5 years. You pick the date. Now, on the other side of you, I want you to imagine somebody who is an acquaintance that you've known exactly the same amount of time, or around the same amount of time. So on one side, you've got a fiercely loyal friend who would go to the ends of the world for you, and you've known for this period of time. And for about the same amount of time, you've got an acquaintance. What is the difference between those two people?
You're closer to the one that you're really loyal to.
Of course you are, but what makes you closer? That's why you call them a friend. What makes you closer?
You spend time with them.
You might spend an equal amount of time with your acquaintance.
Commitment,
loyalty.
Those are all results.
Those are all results.
And by the way, I'm glad you're doing this. This is fabulous, because here's what it is. It's mutual, so reciprocal vulnerability.
Ooh.
The truth of the matter is, the person who is your dear, loyal friend, to use a Dovism, they know your shit and you know theirs.
Yeah.
And they're not using it against you. You share openly. Yeah. There's a mutual reciprocal vulnerability. But with an acquaintance, you don't have that.
Right.
So if you want to keep your friends, if you want to keep your employees, you want to keep your team, you want to keep your customers, then you have to have a level of reciprocal vulnerability. And as leaders, it is our responsibility to go first. So if I want you to be loyal to me and I'm the leader, I need to go first. I need to be vulnerable first. I need to lead the way.
You also spoke one time as at vulnerability being showing strength.
It is strength. Vulnerability is strength. Vulnerability, if you think about what it is, the reason we, particularly for those of us, certainly I am, over 45, we were told that vulnerability is...
I'm way over 45.
I'm working on it.
Those of us who were older, we were trained that vulnerability is a weakness.
Right, we were.
We weren't supposed to let anybody see that weakness. But in fact, to be vulnerable takes courage. Therefore, it's actually a strength. Now, please be clear for anybody watching and listening to this. When I talk about vulnerability, I'm not talking about emotional vomit. I'm not suggesting that you throw up all of your woes onto the next person next to you. That's not the case. We're talking about discerningly having emotional responsibility around what your vulnerability is. But when you do that, it's still, even when it's minor, it takes courage, particularly in a leadership environment, because you feel like, oh, I'm going to get crushed, or somebody's going to take advantage of it. That's the conditioning. It's not the truth. What it creates is a bond, and it's powerful. It takes courage. And it is so amazing at bonding people. So powerful.
Yeah, I learned that when you were talking about that, how being vulnerable really shows strength. And it really was an eye-opener for me, because like you don't tell people your deepest, darkest secrets. You don't show them your vulnerability. But when you do, it seems like you build a bond between that person that you wouldn't have with this guy over here who you've known for the same amount of time, but you don't feel comfortable maybe telling them what's going on in your life. for whatever
What
reason.
we know is that people are bonded through, they have things called trust bonds. We as human beings build trust bonds, and trust bonds come about through mutual acts of courage. This is why military people refer to each other as brothers and sisters, because there's mutual acts of courage that they went through. But the mutual act of courage doesn't have to be a physical or life-threatening. It can be a psychological or emotional. So once we do a mutual act of courage together, there's a bond between us. We feel that affinity to each other. And that mutual vulnerability does that. Now, of course, as I said, that can be scary, and that's why it works. If it was easy, it wouldn't work. You'd go, I don't feel a real connection with them because it was too easy.
Yeah. What is a soul-driven leader organization?
So that's a great question again. So when people hear the word soul, often they'll go to a religious connotation. It's got nothing to do with religion. So I speak a lot about soul-driven organizations, soul-driven leaders, and that means being connected to something that we refer to as deep greatness. This thing within you that has allowed you to keep going. So if you are a human being, there's a pretty good chance, maybe your cat's watching, but if you're a human being, there's a pretty good chance that you've had a few knocks to the canvas. We've all had those, bam, and you go down. And my question is, what gets you up? Because here's the thing, you and I have all been through those things, and some people don't get up. Some people get knocked down 9 times and don't get up the 10th. Some people get knocked down 9,000 times and they'll get up again. So what is it that gets us up? It's that something within us, what I call that deep greatness. When we know what that is for us, so it's very subjective. When we know what that is for us, what it is that makes me get up, why I need to make a difference, why I'm here on the planet, why this knock to the canvas is not going to stop me, then I'm on point. Then I'm on purpose in everything that I'm doing. I'm fulfilling and healing what it is within my soul. And here's what's really beautiful about it. In the process of that, I get to facilitate that for others who need exactly the same thing.
Yeah. That's beautiful.
That is beautiful. Yeah.
Thank you.
Why do you believe that being soul-driven is now vital to leadership in business?
That's a great question, because if you look at leadership these days, not talking about anybody in particular,
Yeah.
just in the eye, you'll notice that there's a lot of leadership that seems quite soulless and seems quite divisive and separating and anger and hate based, rather than really being love and caring and compassionate based. So it's needed more than ever. There's many reasons for that. There's a rise of radical people who are certainly adversarial. But on the other side of it, we live in an increasingly smaller world. I was having this wonderful conversation last week with somebody, one of my clients that I mentor, who doesn't live here, lives actually in Australia. My clients are around the world. So I have clients in China, in Singapore, in Australia, in the UK, in the United States, in Canada. They're all over the world. And I was saying to him, if you really stop and think about it, we live in an incredibly beautiful age. And at the same time, it has its dichotomy. It has its polarity. We have these things.
Yeah.
And these things are amazing. They connect all of us in amazing ways. And yet so few of us are actually emotionally connected. We've got all the devices, but we've not got the emotional connection. But I said, but if you understand this, that this is a tool, it's not a replacement, but it's a tool, so something magical happens. And he said, what's that? I said, if somebody had told me, even as little as 15, 20 years ago, you can actually love somebody that you've never hugged, I would have told them they're an idiot. I've got many people in my life that I love, genuinely love, not romantically, but genuinely love, that I've never hugged.
Yeah.
People I've never met in person, but I love them. I mean, I have a brotherly relationship with them. I'm like a brother to them, or they're like a brother to me, or a sister to me. That love is there. We need to tap into that love that's accessible to us now through these amazing devices. Just think about what we're doing right now.
I know.
How amazing is this?
This is absolutely amazing.
right? We get to do this and reach out and touch people across the world. So we need to be connected at a soulful level with who we are. Now, this is the key, at a soulful level with who we are. It's not about me finding out, trying to poke and prod you. I got to look at me first. Because in doing that, remember, leaders go first. In doing that, looking at me first, I make it. So it's like, yes, I can see that in you. I want to go there. Because leaders go first.
Right.
Leaders have to lead the way.
Yeah.
Leaders go first. They have to
Not
lead
last.
the way.
We're not telling everybody else what to do. Leaders go first.
Right.
I want you to jump off the cliff. I got to jump off the cliff first.
Right. Absolutely. So talk to us about why leaders must embrace this vulnerability. I know we talked about it a couple minutes ago, but why is it so important for a leader to be so vulnerable?
The time we live in, the largest workforce as of 2015 are millennials. We already have Gen Z coming up. Gen Z are already 17 years old. Do you realize that? We're doing all this talk about millennials, and we haven't realized the next generation of the workforce is already in motion. They're 17 years old at their oldest. So millennials are in the workforce, and they're already leaders. The oldest of the millennials is 38 this year.
Yeah.
38 years old. We're like, I thought millennials were kids. No, they're workers. Now, here's what's really interesting about it. Millennials want to work for people who are heart and soul connected. They want to be part of an organization that is about something bigger.
Yeah.
They want to be involved in something bigger. If we don't have that with ourselves, we can't keep them. And one of the things about that is, and one of the things I absolutely love about millennials, is they're not willing to wear the uniform. And by that, I don't just mean the suit and tie, although that's also true. But they're not willing to step into the same old rules. They're breaking the rules. I love millennials, by the way, because I think they're baby boomers with balls.
Well, there you go, because she's a millennial.
I guess I fall into that kind
because
of
I remember that in the late 60s, early 70s, when I was a kid, I remember the hippies talking about, I'm never going to work for the man. They are the man now.
Yeah.
Okay, they is the man. They stopped dropping acid. They cut their hair. They took the cowbells off, and they're now the man driving the Porsche.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
Millennials are saying, I'm not going to work for the man because they've created better options, and good for them. And so boomers had to adapt to the world as it was. Millennials have created a brand new world, and we, the baby boomers and the Gen Xers, have to change to them. And they want real connection. They want to be led by people who are real. So here's the other part of that, and this is why this is important in the context of your question. In the world that I came from in my generation, the generation above mentored us. We looked up at them and they were like, oh, you've got 40 years experience. Could you mentor me?
Right.
And we were picked and it was wonderful and we got that. And sometimes it wasn't so wonderful because you didn't get it. Millennials don't accept that. Millennials understand this. They want to be mentored by you. They actually appreciate your experience, but they want to be able to mentor you. It has to work both ways. I've got millennials on my team who are teaching me stuff every single day. And I can teach them things. It's reciprocal. So it's reciprocal respect, reciprocal vulnerability, and reciprocal leadership. This is why we've got to get soulful. We've got to be connected. If you really want millennials to stay with you, want to stay loyal with you, you've got to equalize the playing field. And it doesn't mean that your time is, or your experience is downplayed. It's not. It means look at them as an equal. Now, when I say equal, understand, it doesn't mean that you've got 40 years experience and they got 3 months and that way they're equal. No, you obviously don't have equal in experience, but what they have to offer is as valuable as what you have to offer. And that's powerful.
That is powerful. Because I'm a baby boomer. She's a millennial. And we have definitely
benefited from each other.
And we have benefited from each other. And we are really cultivating that bond that we have. right?
Yeah, yeah. I've seen it multiple times with my clients because I'm usually the younger one. And I have a lot of baby boomers, like, 50s, 60s, 70-year-olds, late 70s, that, I glean, so much wisdom and everything from. And they glean a lot of things from me, too. Thoughts, just different things and thought processes and creativity, energy.
You're absolutely right,
amazing.
Aubrey. I mean, aside from the obvious answer, which is energy, because you're younger, but there's also perspective. Mm-hmm. And this is vitally important. There's things that I can offer a millennial because of my age that a millennial doesn't have because they've not been on the planet as long as me. But there's things they can offer me that I would never have considered. And I go, oh my goodness, you're so right. You see, in our world, Seth Godin talked about this, the 10,000 hours to be an expert.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Ask a millennial if they believe that. They don't believe that. That's bullshit.
Yep.
It's total bullshit because for a millennial, they learn faster than we do.
Right.
When I was a kid, if I was in the bedroom and I had the record player on, I would get in trouble for being distracted while supposed to be doing homework. Mm-hmm. Now go into the bedroom with your kid who's a millennial or even a Gen Z and look at them. They've got 3 screens open, one earpiece from a headphone set, and they're doing their homework. And you're saying they're distracted. Like, no, I'm focused. Well, what are you doing? I'm listening to this music. I'm talking to my friend who's also doing the same homework. We're both researching together, and I'm working on the screen for my homework. And I'm, as a baby boomer, my head goes.
My daughter did that when she was in high school. She's 34. And when she was in high school, she had the radio going, the boom box, the big boom box.
Yeah.
She had the TV going, and she was doing her homework. How did she do that? And she was getting A's. And I'm thinking, exactly. How can you do that? That's crazy.
This is the point. So the learning process, and so the brain is an incredibly adaptive thing. This is one of the things we don't understand. We've not grasped fully. The brain has an amazing plasticity. It adapts constantly. And we tend to look at the world through our own lenses. So when I go in and work with CEOs and corporations, they'll say to me things like, millennials are entitled little shits. And they'll say all these disparaging things. And I say, you know what the problem is? And they go, what? I say, you're looking through baby boomer lenses. Mm-hmm. And they go, what do you mean? I say, if I gave you a pair of glasses that put a green tint on everything, what color would everything be? And they go, green? I go, yeah, absolutely. If I gave you red lenses, what would it be? They go, red. Absolutely. You're looking through baby boomer lenses. Yeah. So you're seeing everything through those lenses, but that's not the lenses millennials wear. And the best example I've got, and I talked about it in the book, is this. If you think millennials are entitled, do a survey, do the research. You don't even have to do a survey yourself. There's plenty of research out there. And find out how many hours a millennial volunteers, how many hours a millennial puts into projects that they don't get paid for, and then ask how many hours a baby boomer or even a Gen Xer does. And guess what? Millennials give away so much more than baby boomers and Gen Xers. So that doesn't quite fit with our lens of entitled little shit. Because entitled little shit would be, it's all about me. Well, how come you're doing this thing because millennials are driven to be part of a community and to serve and collaborate with that community. So this is why they operate in a vastly different way. We have to shift our lenses. Take your limited lenses of baby boomer off and look at a millennial for the strengths they have, not the weaknesses they have by comparing them to you.
Right. Absolutely. I have to remember to look at younger people through a different lens because sometimes I think, why did they do that? And they think different. It's like their brains are wired a different way than mine is. I guess it's because of the way I was brought up versus the way they were brought up.
Exactly. So again, remembering that the brain is plastic. It moves and it adapts. So if you were brought up, when I was a kid, there were originally, when I was young, there were 2 TV channels, then it became 3. That was your options. Mm-hmm. Now there's thousands.
I know.
Now there's all these multiple screens. So the learning process is vastly different for a millennial and a Gen Z. By the way, Gen Z are going to make millennials look like slow learners.
Really?
I mean, these
17-year-old kids? The 17-year-old kids?
17 and younger, yeah. They're already changing the way we're doing business. They're already changing the way we're doing business.
That's incredible.
You just can't do things the way you did them. The attention span is much, much shorter, and you have to give quality and value super fast.
So like they're on the super fast highway now.
They're on a super fast highway, and they learn faster. They're learning much, much quicker. They'll come up with a question quicker. They're not willing to wait to the end. They're like, well, hold on a minute. Why do we have to go through 3 days of this? Hold on a second. How can I get this in an hour? You're like, what? This is a 5-day training. You want it in an hour? Well, you can't get it in 5 days. Yes, you can. You don't get the meat of it, but you can get the gist of it. And then what will happen is a millennial will go away and do some of their own research. And then they'll come back to you and go, okay, how do I deepen this?
Wow. That is incredible. That really is. Please, you have this, you're the founder of Full Monty Leadership. Can you explain the Full Monty Leadership business that you have to help enlighten people? I love this. I love this Full Monty Leadership. It's so cool.
Thank you. You did see the movie Full Monty, I'm assuming?
Yeah.
Did you see it, Aubrey?
I don't believe so, but I'm not the person to ask about movies.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, it was this wonderful English movie about a bunch of guys who lived in a town that was in economic devastation due to the shutting down of the industry that was local. And these guys were all broke and had no money. And what happened was the Chippendales came to town, or not, they weren't called the Chippendales in the movie, but that kind of thing. They came to town, and all the women gathered around to see them, of course, these young, hot guys, and they threw money at them. And these older guys who were like, 40 plus years old and in bad shape went, that's a way to make money. We could do that. So they decided that they'd become strippers. The fact that none of them had a decent build, the fact that only one of them could dance was really besides the point. These guys should never have taken their clothes off. But they decided that's what they're going to do. However, and this is a marketing thing for people to understand too. However, they were realizing nobody was showing up. So they went, well, what's the point of difference? What don't they do that we can do? And the Chippendales kept their undies on. And they decided that they would go full Monty. They would take it all off. They would reveal everything. And that revealing everything made them massively famous, and they became very successful. So in Full Monty Leadership, it's the understanding that we have to reveal it all. And we want to hold something back. We want to keep a piece of the armor. We want to hold a little bit of the mask. But in revealing all of it, that's when the bond that's built, is when we just like, you know what? I'm not going to hold it back. I'm going to tell you the truth. So we've been working with teams. I'll give you an example of an international team we're working with. And I knew the story of the CEO because I'd been working with him personally, but now he's in front of his team. And he was talking to me about how he didn't feel like they were bonded to him. And we have an exercise that we do as part of our program. And in that exercise, there's a revelation. And the leader has to go first because leaders go first. And he had to reveal something. And he said, in the 1980s, he was a cocaine addict. Now, this is a tight guy who's got it. I mean, this guy has his poo in a pile as far as anybody's concerned. He's the guy that everybody looks at and goes, wow, I want to be like him. And it looks like he's never deviated from the line. And suddenly he admits, he goes, I wasn't just a cocaine head. He goes, I ruined everything.
Wow.
Destroyed my family, all kinds of things. He goes, I was a hot mess in all kinds of ways. 2 weeks later, I went back to him and said, how's things going with the team? He goes, it blew my mind. He goes, I was terrified. And I know he was actually sweating as he was telling it. He goes, I was terrified of telling them. He goes, some of them wanted to take a little bit of advantage of it, as in they want to push a little bit. He goes, but 99% of them. He goes, and by the way, the one who was pushed a bit, he goes, I knew that that's the person I got to get rid of before it even came out. He goes, but the others, he goes, the level of compassion, the level of caring, and he goes, and what's more, everybody's productivity has gone up. Everybody's commitment has gone up.
Wow.
Everybody's bond has gone up. Full Monty Leadership.
Wow.
Reveal and it will bond.
That's quite the visual. I'll never forget that.
Yes,
That's good.
You have to get.
So we're not suggesting CEOs get naked, because that might put people off for life.
Right.
But emotionally naked, certainly.
Yeah.
So basically, what full Monty leadership is just coming forth and letting the people know that are working with you that you're human and you have things in your life that have gone wrong.
Yeah, I mean, it's as leaders, we want to tell people how marvelous we are. We want to talk about our accomplishments,
right?
And that's great because people aspire to that. But if I'm on the pedestal, how are you ever going to get a connection with me? There's only one way. You have to pull me off the pedestal, and that's painful for both of us.
Mm-hmm.
So instead, let's get eye to eye. Let me show you what I've done so you can aspire to it. But let me show you where I came from so that you can go, oh, my goodness, well, if you can, I can. That's why it's important. Otherwise, it becomes unreasonable. It's like, yeah, but I'm not a superstar like you. Well, guess what? I didn't used to be a superstar. In fact, I was a dick. In fact, I was a drug addict. In fact, I was a whatever it was that person's been. The person goes, that humanity is so inspiring. Listen, how many, I'll ask you, Marilyn, right now, and I'm going to ask you, the listener, the viewer, how many biographies have you read? How many biographical movies have you seen of people who are super successful? We've all read many of them, right?
Right, yeah.
Okay, so just think of one right now. If you think about biographies, they're always these big-ass books. They're big, fat books. They're 500-600 pages. They're not slim little books. They're big, fat books. And yet we read them. Why? When you think about it, if you took out the successes, the pages that were filled with success, the book might be 20 pages long.
Mm-hmm.
So why do we read the other 580 pages?
We're riveted.
Because there was down and we know there's an up.
Right.
The humanity is what's shared in the other 580 that aspires to the other 20. If we only share the 20, people go, you're not even human. I don't get it. You're either bullshitting or it's just not real for me. I can't do it. It's different for you because you're superhuman. I'm not. So in that revelation gives people the inspiration. I can come back from this. Whatever this is.
So when you're in a leadership position, it's really best to be transparent and say, show
your humanity.
Right. And because I've done that before. I've even done that on the show. And I have, haven't I?
Yes, you certainly have.
I have an eating disorder, and I've brought myself up from that. And and people say, oh my goodness, Marilyn, I have an eating disorder too. And I did it because I wanted people to know, yeah, I've had successes, but I've been down in the dumps too. I've had that black time, that dark time in my life where I've been through difficult times. I went through a divorce. That was tough. That was really, really tough. And I went through a dark period with that. So I have talked about those things because I know that my viewers, all my viewers out there, a lot of them have gone through that, and they'll say, geez, I've had that issue too, or I've gone through that.
Right, and then they can look at you as a leader and say, okay, well, if you can come through it, it gives them a sense of hope that they can too. Because there are people who are that you're leading, whether they're watching or whatever it is, that you're leading, who are going to go, I've not been through that, but I've been through something else. And they can align that. There are people who've been through something similar to you. You know, they had an eating disorder, you had an eating, and they're working through it. And they go, oh, this is great because now I know somebody else has gone through that too. And there are other people who it's in the back of their mind. They're not fully willing to admit it. They're not going to come forward and say, oh, me too. They're just going to take that and go, I have to think about this now. And you've awakened something in them. And that's vital. That's what changes everything. You know, it's nice to see somebody go through a miraculous change. I love that as a change agent when somebody who works in leadership. It's fabulous when people come and say, oh, it's changed my life. Of course, it feels great. But the truth of the matter is, real impact is on people who will never know your name. People who will never remember your name. That you just dropped that seed that allowed them to grow into the magnificence of who they are and break through whatever was going on for them.
Right. Aubrey has helped me. One day I woke up because I've been struggling with my weight big time and taking time to exercise. And I woke up one day and my intuition says, Marilyn, you can't do this by yourself. You cannot do this by yourself. And I've told my viewers, I got to the point where I could not do it alone. I was failing. And I called Aubrey up and I said, Aubrey, I can't do this. I need help. And we do live videos during the week after I've done my exercise with her. And I have told her to everybody that she has saved my life because the fact that she keeps me motivated, she keeps me accountable. She has me doing things that I never thought I could do, you know, like a plank. Really? You want me to do a minute plank? Are you kidding me?
No.
You know, and then she has me doing a minute 15 and she'll say, well, you did more than a minute. It's like, really?
You
Really?
did a minute.
You know.
Plus some.
So, but that is my thing as a leader to tell people I have issues too, you know.
But you said it earlier, you know, the key words that you used were, I can't do this alone.
I can't.
And the reason that that's important as a message is because we as leaders have been trained to believe we're supposed to do it alone.
Yeah, we're supposed to be like Mighty Mouse.
We're supposed to know everything and be strong and we don't need anybody else. And that, my friends, is complete, total bullshit. It's not real. Nobody made it alone. You know, there's this myth called the self-made millionaire.
Yeah.
It's a myth. It doesn't exist. Nobody made it on their own. No one. Human beings are tribal by nature. We have to have other people with us. And I've only become a better leader by admitting where I need somebody to help me. I have a big presentation going on next week in San Diego for the Servant Leader Conference. It's huge. Like, you know, I'm on stage with Ken Blanchard and lots of other great speakers.
Oh, my.
I get to speak around the world with amazing people. Guess what I did this afternoon? Now, I'm leaving on Sunday. Today, as we record this, is Thursday.
Right.
So guess what I do? Today, I send a message to a very good friend of mine who's another very high-level speaker, and I say, you know what? I'm struggling with this piece. Can you help me?
Yeah.
He goes, sure, send me a deck. I send him my deck. He sends back the thing. Thank you. That's what I needed. I needed perspective. We got to be big enough to admit our smallness. Do you get that?
Yeah.
We've got to be big enough to admit our smallness. We've got to be great enough to admit when we don't feel great so that we can step fully into our greatness. And what that means is this. Part of the lie that you've been told is that as a leader, you're not allowed to feel. But real leaders are real feelers. You've got to stay connected to your emotion. You've got to listen to it. It's not always letting it rule, but listen to your heart and your soul that cries out and get your ego off to the side. You need part of it as part of a leader. It's not a bad thing, but you can't let it drive the bus. At best, it gets to be in the navigational position. At best. And sometimes you have to lock it in the freaking trunk because it's a noisy bastard who's going to interfere with everything.
Truly.
But you've got to take the lead. You've got to let your heart and your soul lead because that's what we need today.
Yeah.
Right.
That's good stuff.
That is. Let's see. Oh, you're doing some online courses now.
Yes.
Are you starting some online courses now? What are they?
We have one that's available right now on Teachable. You can go to Teachable. You can actually just go to my Facebook page, Dove Baron Leadership. If you go to Dove Baron Leadership there, you'll find out about the course. It's Authentic Leadership in Action. And the reason it's called Authentic Leadership in Action is because I think you know, Marilyn, but I have a leadership self-assessment tool called the Matrix. You can find it, by the way,
took it.
You can find it as a gift at matrix.fullmontyleadership.com. You don't need the triple W's, just matrix like the movie, .fullmontyleadership.com. And if you go there, you get to self-assess yourself in the 5 areas of leadership. And one of the leaders who I know very well, he, when it first came out, he went, I'm going to go do the test. And I said, great. And he came back to me and he's like, I'm really surprised. And I said, why? He said, I scored low on authentic leadership. And he goes, I think I'm a pretty authentic leader. I said, I think you're a very authentic leader. He goes, so is the test off? I said, no. And he goes, then I don't understand. I said, because it's not authentic leadership. It's authentic leadership in action. Because what's the difference? How you apply it. What's going on in here versus what goes on. When you deal with the emotional intelligence section of that assessment, many people are like, well, I think I'm very emotionally intelligent. How come I scored low? Because it's putting it in action. So it's authentic leadership in action. So that is what the course is. It's authentic leadership in action. It walks you through how to actually put it in action. That's what's vital for us. That's the first of 5 courses that are coming through.
Cool.
Wow. So when are they going to be available?
Keep checking on Dove Baron Leadership. So you'll know as soon as I know.
Oh,
We're building several of them at once.
Are you?
Yeah, and there's ebooks that go with each of them. So a couple of the ebooks are already available. Authentic Leadership in Action ebook is already out. You can get that. You can find it again at Dove Baron Leadership on Facebook. But you can also find it on Amazon as well, and Barnes and Noble and several other sites.
Oh, that's good to know.
Good.
That's good to know. Something you wrote in your book on, it was on page 50. You wrote, passion, curiosity, and joy are what gets us truly motivated. What do you mean by that? Can you tell our viewers what you mean by that?
Well, give me each one of the words.
Passion. Right.
So passion will get you motivated, but it won't keep you motivated.
Right. So it won't sustain it.
Passion, people will go looking for their purpose. As you know, in the book, I talk a lot about purpose. When people think that their passion is their purpose, it's not. Your passion is not your purpose. So let's start there. It'll get you motivated, it'll get you going, but it won't keep you going. So when people think about their passion, they think about doing a career. They go, I'm passionate about this, so I'm going to go do it as a career. Listen, I'm going to tell you what I tell everybody. I tell the CEOs that I work with. And that's this. If you were supposed to do your passion as a career, and if I'm talking to a man, I'll say, if you were supposed to do your passion as a career, what were you passionate about at 15, 16, 17 years old? And, they'll tell me things. And I'll say, I'll tell you what you were really passionate about. So they'll say, I was passionate about football or whatever it was. I go, no, I'll tell you what you're really passionate about. You're passionate about girls. And they go, yeah. And I say, therefore, if that was your passion, why aren't you in the business of gynecology? Because that was what you were most passionate about at that age. I know I was. And I have no interest in being a gynecologist. So that is, if your passion is not your purpose, it's actually a vehicle for your purpose, but it's not your purpose. So passion is transitional, it's transitory. So Aubrey, being your age, your passion, I'm sure right now is in personal training, but I don't expect that. It might be, but I don't expect it to be that in 10 years. It will have evolved, and it may have evolved into a deeper part of that training, and it may have evolved into something else. That's okay. So passion is important to keep you motivated, but it's not going to keep you going. That means purpose. Second word.
Curiosity.
Curiosity for me is one of the most vital leadership skills you will ever have. And sadly, there's this thing called school that kills it. Because school teaches you to regurgitate, to learn and regurgitate. Curiosity is an amazing thing because it actually comes from the Latin roots of education. Because the Latin roots of education is educat. Educat means to draw out. Modern education means to stuff in and regurgitate what was stuffed in. Educat is to draw out. And to draw out, we need curiosity. We need to find out. The favorite question of a 2-year-old is why? Why? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years old. Why? And then they go to school and they stop asking why because they get told all the answers. Curiosity, every great leader is fiercely curious. If you look at any great leader, they're saying, well, how can we do it better? Why are we doing it this way? What's a better way for us to do it? Elon Musk, I will crown as the king of curiosity. Why can't we take a rocket off and bring it back? Nobody ever thought of that.
No.
You take a rocket off, it blows up, shit's done. No, let's bring it back and do it again. What? Are you crazy? He said, why not? Why not? Why can't we do that? Why can't we move to Mars? Why can't we launch a convertible into space? Why can't we create solar power that is as thin as paper? Why can't we do that? That curiosity is what changes the world. Think of every great inventor, every great leader, not just inventor, but leader, said, why does it have to be this way? Why can't we do something else? Martin Luther King, fiercely curious. The I have a dream speech could have easily been, I have a curiosity. I have a curiosity. How do we make it so that every child stands equal?
Right.
We need curiosity. We need to embrace curiosity. I want to be more curious, not less.
More curious, right. And every time you finish one of your Facebook lives, you end up with stay curious,
my friend. Stay curious.
Yep. Every time. And it gets me thinking. And I want to go research and I want to listen to what you've said before. And it just gets me motivated to keep learning, to just continue to learn.
That's what that motivation is. The curiosity is to keep learning. The 3 most fatal words of a leader. I know that. They shut the mind down. I'm curious opens the mind up. When somebody says something to you and you think this person's an idiot, try this answer. Even, normally you wouldn't say anything, or maybe if you're a little rougher, you might say you're an idiot. But instead, just say, I'm really curious about why you said that. I'm really curious about why that's your point of view. Watch what happens. The relationship will transform. And guess what? You might learn something.
Wow. That's a good,
very good point.
That's really a good point. That is a good point, really. So the last of the 3 words is joy.
I think that we have a very limited understanding of joy. We think of happiness as joy. Happiness is happiness, joy is joy. They're 2 different things. If I come over and tickle you and you're ticklish, you'll laugh, that's happiness. As soon as I stop tickling you, the laughing will stop. It's transitory. Joy is not. Joy is actually a natural state of who we are. It's that giggly little kid inside of us. You look at that kid and you go, what the hell is that kid laughing at? Nothing. They're just joyous.
They're just laughing.
They're just joyous. So it's coming back to joy. Now, here's the unusual position I have on joy. And that your access to your joy is through your pain. And most people are like, what? I don't want to go there. Listen, your joy is buried below your pain. The pain you refuse to look at denies you access to your joy. So get the shit out of the way that needs to be removed so you've got more access to joy.
Huge.
That is huge. Very, very huge. Yeah. Do you have a question for Dove, Aubrey?
My brain just went in like 20 different directions with that. He dropped a bomb.
He dropped a bomb.
I think I just psychologically punched Aubrey in the head.
That solves so many problems. I mean, we talk about people dealing with depression, anxiety, like how many coping mechanisms that we're talking about that people are using, food or drugs, alcohol, TV, Netflix binges, like anything that people are using to numb out so that they can avoid their pain, and thus they are not experiencing joy. That's huge.
And so when people say, I want joy, they're not willing to enter the journey. Right. Joy is on the other side of pain. Joy is not side by side with pain and it's a choice. No. Joy is on the other side of pain. There will come a point when you've done enough processing when it becomes a choice, but it's not there initially. You have to go through it. You have to, as John Bradshaw said, you can't go around it. You can't go over it or under it. You have to go through it. The only way out is through. And that's where your joy sits. So it takes courage. So now we're back to one of my keywords again, which is courage. Right. You need curiosity and courage. And curiosity takes courage because people will say, why are you even asking? And people will say things like, well, that's history. Listen, if you think your past is history, take a look in the mirror because your past is leaking all over your present.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's about to contaminate your future.
Yeah.
Interesting. Really interesting. Well, and I have some people who are partners with me, Dove, and so I do little commercials for them. And Aubrey's one of my partners, and she has this great program that she does, and I want you to tell them about it. It's a 12-week. She's doing a 12-week lifestyle program to help people get their act together. Really get their act together. You know.
Fabulous.
And
so what it is I've created a curriculum that allows a person to come in and say, like, okay, I want to lose weight or I want to become more healthy, and it is a more lifestyle change process that I've created so that, I mean, I've talked to so many people who have yo-yoed back and forth. Like, yes, I lost some weight.
I lost some yo-yo.
And then I stopped doing what I was doing, and then I gained it right back. And now it's even more depressing because I did it, and now I have to do it again. Like, and I got really, really tired of that story, and everybody else does too. So my philosophy has been to create sustainable, and really, even before I say sustainable, enjoyable lifestyle change. So, like, what are the things that we can find that you enjoy, that move you? Marilyn got really big into hot yoga. She loves it. I didn't know that she would love it as much as she does.
I didn't either, because when she challenged me to go, I was sitting here knitting that morning, and I almost wigged out on her. I almost called her and said, I can't do this.
But you didn't.
But right before that, she texts me and says, okay, I'll see you shortly. And it's like, okay, well, I'm committed now. I don't have a choice. I can't get scared about this. I have to do it.
And there's that relationship plug again.
But again, that's another piece of leadership, is the willingness to go where we've not gone before.
Get out of your comfort zone.
Great leaders are risk takers.
Yeah.
So you got to be willing to go where you're not comfortable. Your greatness, and one of my statements around deep greatness is your greatness does not exist in your comfort zone. Your greatness does not exist in the familiar. Your greatness exists in the unfamiliar. So if it's freaking hot yoga and you go like, what the hell, that's got nothing to do with me, maybe it does. Maybe it doesn't, but you got to be curious enough to find out.
Yeah.
I was.
And that's fabulous. That's wonderful. And that's where the transformation takes place, because as Aubrey was just saying, that willingness to try something new then becomes part of a joyous lifestyle, as opposed to, oh shit, I got to do this because I want to fit in the red dress. No. Forget the red dress. I want to live well. That's why I'm going to do this, because I want to be able to walk on the beach and enjoy it. Because I want to walk with my beloved down the street and enjoy my walk as I walk through the streets of Florence. Yes, that's why I'm doing it. Not because I want to fit into a red dress, which is done on one night. Who cares?
Yeah.
Right.
And it's true.
It's wonderful.
I would even go further than that to say, identity-wise, you decided to be the person who did not limit yourself to a box.
Right. There is no box. And getting out of the comfort zone, it's scary. It's scary, Dove, to get out of the comfort zone. But once you dip your toe in it, once you dip your toe in it, it's amazing.
But I think the important thing for people to realize is that, you know, it sounds cliche to say change is hard. And so I want to have people understand the reason change is hard. It is hard. And the reason it's hard is not because it's actually hard. Change is not that hard at all. What's hard is to shift your identity. So if your identity is I'm a fat old lady, or I'm a fat old man, or I'm useless at this, or I'm no good at that, even though it's a shitty identity, it's still an identity. And you've built neural pathways inside of your brain that fire off every time somebody says, let's go for a walk. You go, oh no, I'm fat, I'm old, I'm incapable, I'm not an exercise kind of person. That's nothing more than a neural pathway. So that's why change is hard, because that pathway is going to start firing very quickly and go, no, it's not you. That's an identity crisis. And if you want to be great, you need to push yourself into identity crisis on a regular basis. Oh, this is who I am. What if I'm not? Let me see. Let me find out.
Curious.
Maybe I'm a fitness freak. Okay, let's try that for a while.
I know now she's going to challenge me on Monday. I know that. I love
this.
See, Marilyn.
What?
What if in 2 years from now, you're a yoga instructor?
You know something? Dove? That's on my bucket list. That is on my bucket list.
Fantastic. And maybe you're not, but maybe you are. So what if you just become curious about what would that take? Just for the hell of it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing on my bucket list is to run a 10K.
Mm-hmm.
Fabulous.
I'm not a runner,
That'll be
but
fun.
I've been, she and I walked. One day we walked in 23-degree weather. It was cold. It was really, really cold. Talk about busting a move. I was frozen when I got back. She looked at me and she says, Marilyn, your nose is so red. I said, my nose is frozen. It's not going anywhere. I was so cold. But we did it.
However, walking in that weather, you burned more calories.
I did.
That's how it works. The body burns more calories in cold than it does in heat.
That's good to know. And yes, so, I hope she doesn't say, oh, it's cold, let's go out and walk on Monday.
Also boosts your immune system, which is great.
It does. It really does. We were cold that day. That's probably the coldest day we went out.
That has been.
Yeah, yeah. So, anyhow.
Yeah.
So, I have one more question. What you have in here, and I opened up this part of the book because this is one of the sections I love. Why purpose matters more than profit. Why does purpose matter more than profit? We've got about 3 minutes.
As I said earlier, the reason it matters more is because if you want to keep your people loyal, they'll have an affinity and they'll connect to purpose more than profit. If you're running on profit and focused on profit, you won't be able to keep your staff. Now, here's why that matters. The average millennial is staying in a job about 1.2 years. The latest stats are actually less than that, or about 13 months. So what that means is you've got to keep them longer than that because your ROI comes at 1.5 to 2 years, meaning you're going to spend their annual salary on training and developing them 1.5 to 2 times. If they're $100,000 a year, you're going to spend 150 to 200,000 training and developing them. If they're leaving you in 13 months, you've already lost.
Yeah.
If you don't have purpose first, it will damage your profit.
Right. I want everybody to get this book. This book, Fiercely Loyal, I've been talking about it for months. As you can see, my book is kind of falling apart.
Thank you so much
I've read it so many times. It is an awesome book. It keeps me focused. If I have a question, I'll just open up the page and just start reading it because it is such a wonderful, wonderful book. Big eye-opener, so authentic. I'm telling you, Dove, you are probably one of the most authentic people I know. Truly.
Thank you. That's very kind.
And you tell it like it is. You absolutely, and you don't mince words and you don't sugarcoat them. And
really?
You don't. And it's such a joy when you were having them on Saturdays, your Facebook pages, on your Facebook Lives, and just to sit there and listen. I would sit there and just be mesmerized. And I would take the time when I would find that you were live, I would listen. And if I missed it, I would listen to it later because it is so important. So important. So if you want to check out his Facebook business, what's your business page again?
Dove Baron Leadership.
Dove Baron Leadership.
DOVBARON and the word leadership. You just put that in the search at Facebook. That'll take you right to the page.
Yeah.
And you can also watch all those previous editions of the Facebook Live. They're all there for you.
Right. And he also has things posted on there on the radio interviews that you do with people. I don't do Roku, but my son does Roku. Next time I go out and see him, I'll have to check your Roku out, or I'm just going to have to get Roku to see how that works. But thank you. I want to thank you. Aubrey and I feel so blessed to have had you on the show tonight, and it's been amazing. It's been absolutely amazing to have you and have you on our show. I really, really appreciate you taking the time to be on Healthy Living with Marilyn tonight. And
thank you, Marilyn. I really appreciate it. And I want to thank you too, Aubrey. It's been a gift. And I want to say this, if you're watching live, or even if you're going to watch this as a recording, feel free to reach out to me because, one of the things for me is information is worth the hole in the donut. Transformation takes place when there's application. So I want you to tell me what you got out of this program. Tell Marilyn, tell us both. And what you're going to do with it, because that's what really matters. Tell us what you got and what you're going to do with it, because it's not just my time. Marilyn and Aubrey have gifted their time to you as well. So please, Marilyn puts the time and the energy and the effort to this. Get back to her and let her know that you appreciate her doing this, not just with me, but with anybody, with her time. Let her know it's important.
Thank you, Dove. We love you. Thank you so much. Be amazing, everybody, and we'll see you next week. Thank you so much.
Stay curious, my friends. Stay
Bye-bye.
curious.
Stay curious, definitely.